Miles had inherited the old stone manor from his grandfather, a towering, ivy-draped structure nestled deep in the English countryside. The house had been abandoned for over 3 decades. Dust hung in the air like forgotten time, and every step on the wooden floors echoed like a warning. He arrived in mid-July, seeking solitude during his university break. A week of peace, a week to think, to write, to breathe. He would get none of that. The first few days were quiet, almost too quiet. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Just the crackling of the fireplace and the whispering wind beyond the window panes. But on the 5th night, something changed. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Miles awoke to a sound. A low, guttural moan, barely audible. At first he thought it was the old pipes groaning or the wind forcing its way through cracked seals. But it repeated, and it was coming from the west wing, a hallway he hadn't explored yet. Candle in hand, Miles crept through the narrow corridor. The wallpaper was peeling, and the air smelled of rot and dust. The sound led him to a wall that held nothing, just faded floral paper. But when he pressed his hand to it, the texture changed. Wood, a door. But here's the thing. According to the blueprints of the house, which he'd found in his grandfather's desk, this door shouldn't exist. This part of the manor was marked as solid wall, yet the door stood there now, and it was ice cold to the touch. He didn't open it, not that night. Instead, he returned to bed, heart pounding, mind racing. The next day, he searched every document in the house. Journals, letters, old maps, but no mention of a hidden room, until he found a torn page tucked inside a book titled Echoes of the Lost Hour. Whatever you do, never open the door at 3:17. The thing on the other side doesn't forget faces. Miles laughed nervously at first. Some weird family legend, he assumed. His grandfather was known to dabble in the occult. Books on rituals, energy, symbols, just eccentric nonsense. But that night, the moaning returned. Louder. This time, there was something else layered beneath it. The sound of a child softly crying. And the door. It was cracked open. Miles stood frozen. From within the dark slit of the door came a sound like scraping nails on wood, rhythmic and patient. And then, a whisper. Miles. He slammed it shut and shoved a dresser in front of it. The whisper didn't return, but neither did the silence. From that night onward, every mirror in the house began to fog at exactly 3:17 a.m., even without heat. Shadows shifted in rooms he wasn't in. Furniture moved, and the once faint moaning turned into a chant, in a language he couldn't recognize. He stopped sleeping. One morning, after 3 sleepless nights, Miles found something new. His reflection was delayed. He moved his hand, and the reflection followed a second later. Then it smiled, even though he hadn't. And behind the reflected version of himself, deep in the glass, stood a figure, pale, sunken-eyed, grinning with teeth far too long for a human. The room behind him was unfamiliar. Stone walls, a single chair, and a rusted grandfather clock stuck at 3:17. He turned around. There was nothing behind him, but the reflection still showed the figure, standing closer. That afternoon, Miles ripped the dresser away and flung the hidden door open. The room was small, dusty. The air was cold enough to see his breath, but most unnerving of all, it was completely empty save for a wooden chair and a broken pocket watch on the floor, frozen at 3:17. There were symbols scratched into the walls, circles, eyes, a language carved with fingernails, and above it all, a sentence etched in deep, angry letters. Time belongs to the hollowed. He picked up the pocket watch. A shriek tore through the room, high and violent. The door slammed shut behind him. When he awoke, the air was heavier, the colors dimmer. The dust didn't float. It hovered still, as if time had stopped. Miles opened the door and stepped out, but the house wasn't the same. Everything had aged. The curtains were shredded. The walls were cracked open like dried skin. There were no birds outside, no wind. Even the sky looked wrong, too still, too red. And then the whisper returned. "Welcome back, Miles." He ran. Through every hall, every stairwell, but every turn led him back to the door. The same room, the same broken chair, the same pocket watch, now ticking backward. And then he saw it, in the mirror above the fireplace. Himself standing still, eyes black, skin gray, whispering something over and over. "Now you're part of the hour." He tried to escape the house the next morning, or what he thought was morning. But the front door opened only to reveal the same hallway. He smashed windows. Behind them was only stone. The phone lines hissed with whispers. The clocks bled black ink instead of ticking. He was trapped in a loop. Every time the clock struck 3:17, he returned to that room, standing before the chair, forced to sit, forced to listen. And behind him, always, the pale figure waiting, getting closer, smiling. One final entry was found in the margins of his grandfather's book, written in a trembling hand. "He's still in there. The boy who opened the room. The more you think of him, the louder he gets. So do not speak his name. Do not look at the clock. And whatever you do, never open the door at 3:17.